friends, I've got a project for you. I've always wanted to create a car that could print all in one piece with wheels and axles and then still roll when it was finished. And here is my solution for how to do it. Start by bringing out a cylinder. I want to make the wheels 15 by 15 just because I'm always frugal with my plastic. And I want to make it 2 millimeters thick. So that is going to be my wheel. And then the next thing I want to do is make it so that I can line it up with one of the grid lines, making sure my work plane is up here to the front. I'll explain more about why I like the work plane up to the front later. But right now I'm just making sure that this is lined up on a grid line. If your grid's not the way you want for lining that up, you can shut off grid for a second and then get it to the grid line that you want, or nice and easy like that. I'm going to turn my grid back on. And then when we print the second one of these, we need a rounded shape so that the printer can handle printing up in thin air. So my strategy for doing this is to use the half sphere. Once again, we set that little critter to 15 and press enter, 15 and press enter. And then I have found that my printers can handle a 2 millimeter rounded amount. I'm going to align both of these on top of each other. Since they're the same size, they should line up just ducky, but I'll use the align tool just to make it cool. And then I want to take that rounded one and raise it up 2 millimeters. I went up 3, so I'll change that in a second. So what this does is it gives me a piece that when I flip it over for the second one, it can print upside down. Here it is grouped. I'm going to do Control D to duplicate, and then I'm going to raise this up. Right now I'm going to go 20. I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees, and then I'm going to go 5 more, so this edge will be 25 away from this edge. For those of you doing math out there, that means you've got 21 worth of space to play with inside here. So now that I've got my two wheels perfectly aligned over each other, I'm going to add the axle in between them. I want a 4 millimeter cylinder, so it's nice and robust for the axle. So here's my 4, and here's my 4. And remember, we had 25 plus 4 for the total height. So if I make this 29, the sizes should match up. And I can zoom in and then align those all so they are perfectly snap snap right where they're supposed to be. I'm going to group that axle. And then I'm going to move to the left view so that I can make a second axle. I'm just going to do Control D. And I'm going to move that back. And instead of 0.1, I'm going to put this at 5 millimeters. Matter of fact, I'm going to do Control Z, and then I'm going to do the 5 millimeter moves. And this is nice because it stays right on my grid lines for me, which makes it easier for the next parts that I build. So with two axles on the side view, I'm going to switch to the top view, and I'm going to make my body of my car. Now the trick I love to use is to bring out the sphere, and the sphere, switch back to a left view, is nifty because I can stretch it out and it'll have contact with the same area as the wheels, and then it can build upward. I've got to make sure that it's not touching. You can see I shrunk it too far and it did make contact. I'm going to change my measurements to 1 millimeter so I'm not snapping quite so hard. And I'm going to make this little fella kind of skinny like he's a fin. I'm going to take my two wheels real quick, and because I'm happy with them, I'm going to group them. So now they are one piece. And then, when I nudge this fella closer to the middle, I can select it all, align it, and I want to make sure that they are all on that line. So once again, this is going to be a fin. I am going to use Alt to shrink it, and it stays around its middle. So I held Alt, and I shrunk it. And then I'm going to do Control D to duplicate it. And I want to lift it up, the new one, so that it's at that same height as that side. If I use this to get a good look, you can see that it is a straight line and those are aligned perfectly. I'm going to do Control D again, and I'm going to bring this one down, and it'll be my middle of my car. I'm going to use the Alt stretch trick to make it wider. I don't want to make it wider than my wheels. I'm going to use this tool to double check. I don't like it at the moment, so I'm going to shrink it a little. I'm holding Alt so that it just goes around that side. I'm going to go 12. I do want it thicker this way. I'm going to do Control Z though because I want to hold Alt as it builds around itself. And then I'm going to also make it quite a bit longer, once again holding Alt so it stretches all the way across for my car body design. I'm going to slide it back a little bit so there's more back end than there is front end. I'm deciding that this side is the front just so it matches that label. I'm liking the amount of room I've got now for my axle to come through. And I'm going to call this Groovy, and I'm going to group these three pieces. Car body kind of looks like a Formula 1 car. Right now I want to put a piece on top of it. That's the bottom, so I'm going to switch around and get a good look at the top. And I want this piece up here to be another sphere, so I'm going to just bring another one out, kind of like a canopy. Need to make sure that it's centered. Which we can use that cool button for. Once again, that Alt tool lets me shrink this so it fits. And this one I don't have to worry about the Alt because it's going to be sunk into the car. So I have got a pretty nifty little car design that I can then group and make one piece. And then the final thing is to cut out the axle holes where the wheels will be. So because I did this 4 millimeters, I'm going to bring out a 6 millimeter axle hole. I'm going to make it a funky color so it's easy to see as I line it up with the wheel. I am going to hide the body because I don't need it for this piece of the project. I'm going to get this close to the right spot by doing the top view. Once I've got those lined up, then I'm going to select it. Oh, that's not going to work because this is grouped. I'm going to ungroup this, and then I'm going to align, and I want it centered. And then I'm going to do Control D, slide that little fella over, use the cool fit to view. I can see that he is aligned, and then all I want to do is raise this up so that it's only going to be cutting where the wheel isn't. So now I'm going to grab those two and I'm going to group them again. I'm going to hide them. I'm going to show everything. And then I'm going to hide these guys. This little hide tool is amazing. And then I want to take both axles and turn them into holes. Or both axle holes. And when I group that, it cuts out where the axles are going to fit. I can show all, and you have just created a car that should print on your 3D printer, and then the axles will spin when you're done. You can use these techniques to try and come up with ways to add fins or any other item that you think is cool and awesome. But have fun, and I hope yours turns out as cool as mine. I will show a link at the end of the lesson so you can actually see mine on Thingiverse. Have fun and keep tinkering.